Hey, what up? It's Brad with Home Love Construction, and in this video, I want to talk to you about open concept floor plans. Can you do it? Can you have your Florida home as an open concept house? And the simple answer is usually it's actually quite simple to do so. Now, if you're thinking about rearranging walls in your home and redesigning the interior, you should immediately stop what you're doing and go to homelove.construction/design and see our design package and what we do for people at different levels of renovations to help them to plan the perfect renovation. If you want to plan the perfect renovation, go to homelove.construction/design and see some of the testimonials there and some of the examples of our work. It'll blow you away. Now, that said, the meat of the video is, can I make my home an open floor plan in a Florida home? Like, is it easy? Is it hard? Or like, where do we stand on this? Well, the good news is, if your home was built after, I'm gonna say around the 80s is when this kind of started to change, your house is probably built with pre-manufactured trusses, which means that you have the two exterior walls of the house and you have a big triangle that has all the boards in between it sitting on it. That's called webbing, by the way, all the stuff in the middle. Like a kind of like a spider's web, I guess, is what it looked like. So you have that triangle that sits on the walls. The only structural components to that are the truss, the big triangle thing, and the outside walls. Nothing between those is structural. So the reason that's good news for you is that if your house is built with trusses and it sits on the outside walls of your home and you have like a bunch of walls inside, you could blow all of them out and it wouldn't affect the structure of your home, which is great because the most expensive thing to do in a home is structural alterations, because you have to go all the way from the concrete all the way up to the roof whenever you do a structural alteration. Just as a rule of thumb, you have to consider all those things. It has to be engineered, blah, 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 all that kind of fun stuff, as we like to say. If you're in a Florida home that was built with trusses, you don't have to worry about any of that. You can almost blow out walls willy-nilly. Now, if you live in an older home that was built, say, before the 1980s, consider now that homes that were built in the 80s are now 42 years old. We're shooting this in 2022. So if your house is built in the 80s, it's 42 years old. It's actually getting to be an older home, funny enough. But if it was built before that, and you have the individual pieces of wood called rafters making up your roof, it's not quite as simple. There are typically walls right down the middle of the home in an older style home like that are structural elements. So what you would have to do is you'd actually have to add beams in to help support that roof. That cross bracing that's right at the ceiling level, like if your ceiling's here, you're gonna have a big piece of wood running right across there. It's almost like a beam, and it has to sit on a wall in the middle because it's not made to span the whole way. It's made to go from the outside wall to that middle wall, and then again from there to the other outside wall. So if you were to take out that middle wall, the whole thing would start to sag like that. It's not that your roof would fall down or anything, but it would start to sag over time. And you have this belly, is what they call that, in the middle of the ceiling. And you don't want that because drywall will crack, it'll look weird, blah, blah, blah. So what you can do is you can add a beam up there to make it stiffer, like more rigid, and prevent that dropping from happening before you take the wall out. So you can do it in that case. It's just a little bit more involved. Now, the best way to know whether or not you need to do that is to have a general contractor and an engineer come and look at it. So if you need help with that, go to homelove.construction/design. I'm not joking on that. This is what we do for people like 24/7. We have a full-time design department that has 4 people in it, which might not sound like a lot, but 4 people in our company are just doing the design work. That's the selections, picking out what it's gonna look like, doing the drafting, doing the engineering, like the actual load calculations of, okay, how much can this beam take? Where do we have to put it? Blah, blah, blah. We have the expertise needed in order to help you know whether or not you can do this. And the most important part is we then pass it over to our estimators who can give you rapid pricing on what it's actually gonna cost for different options. And so the reason that we took design in-house, because most general contractors are not what we call ourselves is design build, right? Most contractors aren't like that because they're like, hire somebody else to do the design and then just tell me how to build it. Just tell me how to build it and I'll build it. But what we realized is that a lot of the times, architects, even draftsmen, architects, even engineers sometimes will tell you to build something in a way that's impossible, like in a way that just simply doesn't work in the physical universe. And so in order to get around that, we would get pissed off at this, but it was like, what are we gonna do about it? How do we fix this? Our solution is, well, let's provide that service and make sure that it's correct from the start so that we don't then have to hit somebody with, hey, you're gonna have to pay us an extra 25K to build this project because your engineer tells us to do it this way and it can't be done, it has to be done this way. So in order to avoid that, we were like, this isn't fair to people, let's do it ourselves so that we can fix that. So that's what we did. And so that's what homelove.construction/design simply puts you into our design department, which allows the actual contractor who you want to do the work to plan the work. And so it's a much more seamless transition from planning into actual execution. And the execution team knows what it's looking at when it gets the plans. It's like, oh, okay, he always draws it like this, and he always includes blah, blah, and blah. I know how to account for that. And this guy who does 20% of our framing is just gonna go and knock it out for us. So it's a much more seamless transition. So if you're in the state of Florida, would love to do that for you. Even if you're outside the state of Florida, we can do a remote design, which is actually, again, planned by a general contracting firm that does design, okay? That's what you want, is you want it to be planned by the people who are building it in the physical universe, who actually have to deal with it, because we're not gonna design something that someone else can't build. Like, it just doesn't make sense, that's not how we roll. So homelove.construction/design is where you get that done. Go there right now if you need help with the design, and I look forward to seeing your open concept home. If you like this video, hit the subscribe button below, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.